Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Relic of the Past event in which the Relic Knight is added to the game. So this week is pretty interesting in that the game has just reached a very big milestone. As of today, Gems of War has finally gotten the very first 30-star kingdom, that being Sword's Edge, the current event week kingdom. Of course, I currently only have it at 29. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be stuck here due to the infrequency of blue deed books, or just deed books in general. But it is indeed possible now to do so, with the main bottleneck being, of course, deed books. These are slowly added to the game over time. You can end up getting more deeds through like merchants and stuff like that. But of course, that's just a slow pace. I think I'm, what now? If we convert these 8s, I'll have 10, which means we'll be 8 short. It is definitely not worth converting your writs into blue deeds. If anything, you should only really be converting them into one of two things. Purple deeds in order to make purple deed books, because there's more magic kingdoms than any other kingdom, or into Imperials. Those are the only two things you'd ever convert writs into, so we're still going to be a little ways away from finally being able to get this thing max. But it is indeed possible to have the first ever 30-star kingdom. Of course, a 30-star, pretty big milestone. You do gain additional stat, and theoretically, almost every 30-star in the game will give you 2 stats, in a sense. Not because it actually gives you 2 stats, but because you'll likely be gaining +1 stat in 2 different ways. As the last milestone for almost every single kingdom will end up be getting it to level 20, and which is a requirement for 30-star. So you would end up getting 30-star while simultaneously getting a level 20 kingdom, as that's the main bottleneck here for almost all of them. And this ends up giving +1 to his stat, in this case armor, and this one also ends up giving +1 to his stat when you end up getting the 30-star bonus. But yeah, they might expand the system in the future. I was actually surprised that we already got this. Wasn't expecting this for like another year or two. But they're already bringing out the 30-star kingdom. If you're wondering how this was possible, it is actually due to the 4 new troops that they added as of the most recent patch version 6.8. And they added some more troops to the tutorial of the game, and in doing so, Sword's Edge just spiked up like crazy. But yeah, I'm curious to see if we get another 5 stars, another 10 stars. They've expanded the system in the past. Of course, we do not have like those boss red stars yet, so they could do another 5 for those, or whatever they end up doing. So I'm pretty sure they will expand it in the future. But if nothing else, it seems like Sword's Edge will not be getting any more troops for quite a while. Speaking of that, before we go over the event troop for the week, let me actually go over event keys real quick. So, of course, as far as event keys, it is associated to Sword's Edge, but there are a lot more troops that you will be able to get compared to normal. So if we go over here to Sword's Edge under Show All, here are all 29 troops that compose of the 30-star kingdom now, and it's probably going to stay like that for a little while. However, there are 4 new troops that were just added about a month ago in the most recent patch. And now's a good time to get them. I know Guardian Dragon ended up getting like 5 mythics, technically 6, because as I was trying to open this thing to get it max with only event keys, because I didn't want to use the blue orb, so I probably should have. But in doing so, I got another mythic plus the 5 before, so I've gotten 6 mythics trying to get 1 copy of this little guy. But he's really easy to get now. I think I got like 9 of him in 1,000 keys or slightly less. But him, Eleanor, the Mysterious Hero, and one other one here. Where'd he go? He's somewhere's here. The Minuteman? Yeah, the Militiaman. Those were the 4 that were added in the most recent patch, and all of them are in the drop table. Actually, every single thing that you see here is in the drop table, with the exception of the 4 Crypt Keepers troops, and I believe that is it. Overall, Sword's Edge, unfortunately, a pretty underwhelming kingdom. However, if you are opening keys, there are a few things to be looking for. For one, I guess Guardian Dragon, he's been very hard to get until today. So if you want to go finally get him, it is super easy to do so right now. Surquat and Hadley, you probably see me suggesting this troop like almost every other week. And it's mostly because he gives 50% mana start to all knights. This is particularly good for Guard's Avatar. There are a few other niche cases, but giving 50% mana start to Guard's Avatar is pretty much his entire purpose, since you can no longer 50% mana start him off of Divines, due to, for whatever reason, Divines still only having a 40% start instead of a 50%. So he's mostly used for that, but there's a few other niche instances you can use it for. He has a very nice burst. He has basically everything that makes Ishbala good, which is it ends up having a skull convert, while still having an overall good mana start, and even has a double damage poke on top of that. And it's 2 random enemies, so it even stacks onto 1 singular enemy. Aside from that, Queen Jezebel, while very rarely used, can be used on teams that like to stack attack. Generally, spamming attack gain is not a particularly common strategy within the game. However, if you are doing so, she synergizes very well into those kind of teams. You can also mass on her in order to gain a bunch of mana across your entire team, though this is pretty inconsistent compared to some other methods due to a wide range of 3 to 8. and occasionally just going to keep spamming you 3s and 4s, so it's generally pretty inconsistent, but can work in attack buffing teams if you happen to be utilizing one. Aside from that, the 2 mythics here are pretty underwhelming, and apparently might not be getting a 3rd anytime soon if they've already hit the technically max amount of troops, so we'll see exactly what happens with that, as it's kind of unprecedented for a kingdom to have this many troops. And despite how many there are not that many good ones, but it's still worth going. Honestly, do not leave this week without Surqua and Hadley. I'd say that's the only essential within the drop table. But if nothing else, it is theoretically the easiest kingdom in the game to get to like 10 star, 20 star, or whatever milestone you want to reach, as it has the highest quantity of troops of any kingdom. Now that it is now 30 starable. Anyways, we kind of skipped over it because I wanted to go over the other thing first. But of course, we do have a new glory troop this week. Before we do though, don't forget, I sometimes already buy this up before I even record the video. However, if you don't already, if you go under shop underneath resources and you ever need more event keys, every single week you end up buying 10 for 180 glory each. I highly advise doing this every single week, as you can just convert your excess glory into free event keys. And yeah, really good value. This always disappears after you buy it though, which is always strange. I'm not sure why. It's like the only thing here that does that, but you know, it's normally all the way to the left right over there. Anyways, so as far as the new troop itself, which I didn't even buy a single copy of because I got it all through event keys, is the Relic Knight. Unfortunately, pretty bad. It bears an ally and gives them mana equal to half their mana cost, and if they are a knight, also creates 3 spirit gems. Biggest issue with this is there's no extra turn follow-up, and 3 spirit gems is a very small amount of spirit gems. I don't even believe it itself has immune to mana drain, so you're basically just setting up the enemy to go mana drain you, which is really bad. Even if he didn't have these spirit gems, or even if he created a bunch more, I'm not sure that'd be enough to justify what he's doing. He's pretty much just a buffer troop that tries to mana drain your own team, so I don't really see a single situation where you would really want to use him. If anything, this is almost a negative effect. Like, you would want to deliberately use this on not a knight, just so you wouldn't create 3 spirit gems, just because of how much it would backfire. And the base of his ability just isn't strong enough to justify using him, even if he didn't have the backfiring 3 spirit gems. So overall, unfortunately, into the pile of useless knights within the game. Obviously, not all of them are useless, but gosh, I feel like knights has like one of the highest concentrations of just like completely useless troops. It's kind of unfortunate. Anyways, as far as guild related events, we do have a few going on this week. We have guild wars going on all throughout the week, starting tomorrow. We have a standard world event, and we even have an Orc Invasion happening this Friday. As far as the world event is concerned, we do have access to magic, so that's always nice. It is a night restriction. Basically, all you need to know about the scoring is 2 things. One is always take Lady Marana every time you see Lady Marana, and the second is whatever ones you are seeing the least of, do not take. So you get more points the more you keep battling the same rooms in this current world event. So basically, just pick one that you don't see as one of your starting ones, and just never take that one if you can help it. So just simply pick one room, and then proceed to never take that room. For example, one of them that I don't have showing up here is, let's see, the Sugaroff, or however you end up saying that, the one that begins with SH. That one, the only one that begins with S. So I don't see that here. So we could just simply not take that one, and that would be the one we just decide not to take. So you basically just choose one that you don't see here, or even one that you do see here, and just proceed to never take that one ever. And you will get slightly more points doing that, as every single time you keep taking the same room, it'll give you slightly more. So just choose one you don't want to take, and you'll be good to go. Anyways, aside from that, guild war event, same thing as always. Nothing really changed here. Make sure to set all your defend teams accordingly, so you get the maximum amount of points. So on and so forth. We'll be going over them every single night as we normally do. And might be able to mess around with a few more things. Most notably, one thing that actually comes in this week, as of actually today, is if you have the bigger pass, you actually get access to the campaign mythic. Of course, on the paid side, technically on the super paid side if you're getting it today. But the King of Ravens is technically finally available, so it is something that you're going to need to look out for if you don't have access to it. Some people will, and is the new best mana drainer in the game. It's going to be pretty scary, so you can see this on any Guild War day too, defensively. Offensively, it wouldn't really matter because, you don't really get to see it. I'm not sure you could really need to bother countering it, as not too many people will be using it this time around. But you might see it defensively on one of the given days. It basically gets the 4 mana drain every single turn. The basic premise of this is it creates it converts 2 blue gems into spirit gems. And of course, those are the same color as they already are. However, this does mean that at the beginning of every single one of the enemy's turn, if they have a board clear capability, they will be able to drain your entire team for 4. So if they do something like Being a Mercy that just came out last week, and then combine it with this, with some other Empower, because you know they're running double Empower book with King of Ravens. Like, you already know that's the team. It's like literally going to be the exact team, double Empower, book Raven, maybe like something else other than book, but you know everyone's going to go run book. But it's going to be something along that lines of that on one of the given days, probably on some day where they can feed all into purple, maybe even on purple day itself. And it's just going to be really annoying. It will constantly drain you for 4 mana every single turn. You're going to be cursed, so you can't even immune to it unless you're using one of the things that have immune to curse and everything, which are very few, unless you're running like a Kadera team of some sort with the tower, which I can even run them on the same day now that I think about it. What's the color overlap? But basically, he gets to explode a bunch of gems and all the spirit gems, meaning he has a way to clear his own gem. So not only are you going to have it done through other things, like maybe a Thrall, or probably throughout most situations, as far as most teams. But not only are you going to have some kind of destroyer or exploder that can end up doing it, but it itself can also do it for itself. So you can always have a destroy option. Of course, AI might be a little bit weird with how it ends up utilizing that, but if you have 2 destroy options, it and one other one, you're basically going to have a guaranteed way to get the 4 mana drain every single turn, which is a lot, especially combined with like being a Mercy's Curse and like one other option or however else it gets set up. A lot of ways to set it up. Luckily, its damage isn't particularly good. It definitely has to be ran with at least one other damage source in order to be good. In Guild Wars, it's almost going to always be book. And that's the main thing you have to really look out for it. As its damage itself isn't really the annoying part, it's mostly its trait. So if you can get it stunned, that can end up being pretty good. It does not have any immune to stun. You just get a stun, not have to deal with it. You still have to deal with Purple Storm as that triggers beforehand. But just kind of get a stun and it should be okay. So working from there, and you can kind of take it out. It's also pretty single targetable, so you can kind of take it out, kill it with a skull, and go from there as well. But anyways, yeah, very strong Mythic. Really curious to see how it goes in the future. It's pretty much going to be as strong as Famine was at its peak. So curious to see how it pans out overall. Because I haven't had the chance to test it yet. I won't have it until later tonight when we end up doing the stream. So we'll test it then to see exactly how it pans out. But very curious to see how that guy ends up working. Anyways, so next things next. What do we have? As far as weekly events we have going on, this Tuesday we have ourselves the faction event related to Sword's Edge, which is the Crypt, a red-purple restriction. Wednesday we're going to be having a Knight Pet, just a Knight bonus for all Knight teams. If you use 3 or more Knights on the team, get a little bit of bonus. I believe it's just a little bit of armor and one other stat, probably HP or something. Maybe a little bit of attack in there. Thursday we got the class event for the Knight itself. Knight being pretty underwhelming. However, ever since they made Death Knight into a Daemon, it is a little bit better now that you only have 1 Knight class, or it's Knight itself. Overall, Knight is among one of the worst hero classes in the entire game, probably bottom 3, bottom 5. Though I wouldn't say it's the absolute worst, as some 4x Knight teams do end up utilizing it. But overall, it's a pretty underwhelming hero class that doesn't really do much. And if you're looking for a blue hero class, you're normally going down the route of like Frost Mage or something similar. And this Friday, we have an invasion event. It's an Orc Invasion event. We're going to be getting Explodey Orc Weapon on that day. And no Mythic, because this month actually goes all the way to 31 days. So unfortunately, that's 1 day short of having the Mythic this Friday. So it won't be until next week's Friday, not this week's Friday, as far as new Mythic is concerned, even though we're technically getting the Raven this week. Anyways, as far as Soulforge is concerned, do we have anything good here? Archdiva. Archdiva's weird. I like using it, but I feel like it's very niche. It's really good at feeding, well, you get to basically feed a singular Mythic full mana. Technically, you can do it on anything, but normally you're targeting a Mythic or something with really high mana cost. There aren't too many ways to end up utilizing this. Ideally, it works really good with things that also utilize attack, life, and armor, like Lord of Slaughter, for example. It's very situational. I like using it, though. Aside from that, nothing too good as far as Soulforge crafts are concerned. As far as weapons, it's mostly just the standard ones. If you want to pick up like a Sword's Edge one or a Knight one to end up helping with the event, you can end up going down that route. Otherwise, nothing particularly special here, unless you just want to pick up like a Explodey weapon or something else. But all the options are pretty average. Nothing really stands out as a particularly good one. The only one exception to that is maybe Blade of Nefertani. Not because Blade of Nefertani itself is good, but Blade of Nefertani is one of the 3 components you need to eventually make a Deathbringer. And while I don't feel like I use Deathbringer that much these days, I do advise getting the 3 pieces of Nefertani, with one of them being available this week and probably won't be available again for another year or 2, especially given how many stars the kingdom has. So definitely make sure to pick this up if nothing else. as if you're looking to make a Dustbringer at any point, even if you don't feel like you will, just pick it up because you might eventually craft it. The way that Dustbringer works is you have to get 3 different components. One is from Droxzoom, one is from Sword's Edge, and the other one is from Drifting Sand, which you can only get from their event weeks. And you want to get these preemptively because unlike something like Dawnbringer, where you can get the 3 components for Dawnbringer at any point, same as the components for the Diamantina at any point once you finally have those RNG dragons, which we almost have soon. We have all the dragons, but we'll have Diamantina soon. But these you can't just get whenever. You have to wait for the event week. So I do advise getting the Sword's Edge weapon because if you ever do want to make Dawnbringer, or Dustbringer, I mean, this weapon might not be available for another year and a half, 2 years. Obviously, you just reached 30-star Kingdom, and if they're not expanding that system, it'll be a very long time before Sword's Edge gets another event. We don't really know. It's been unprecedented for a Kingdom to hit max, or at least max in the current state of the game. Obviously, it could be expanded again. But I do highly, 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 highly advise getting this, as you have no clue when you'll be able to get this again, and it could be over a year at the absolute earliest. So, and by then, you might want a Dustbringer. Who knows? Maybe it'll be meta for something. It kind of is okay right now. Biggest issue with it is it has like a higher mana cost compared to Dawnbringer. I'm not sure why they made it so much higher. It's like 25 instead of 20. If it was like 22, it would be okay. They did because it was like Deathmark, but honestly, it's not that much better. But you know, still a weapon you eventually want to get. So just pick up the Sword's Edge weapon, the Blade of Nefertani. If you're going to get absolutely any one thing from Soulforge this week, I would advise getting Blade of Nefertani. Not because it's good, but you might eventually need a Dustbringer, and it's just one completionist thing that you won't have to deal with RNG of when on Earth the event would come back around again. Anyways, with all that out of the way, let's go and go over a couple teams. So let's go all the way from the top, all of which will be in the description below if you want to go copy and paste any of them. So, starting with the World event, we're going with pretty much just, well, Guard's Avatar. Of course, we do have access to Sir Quan Hadley Guard's Avatar combo, so that's the way we're going to go. If you have access to it, we do have to get a little bit more creative with the mana accumulators. This time around, we're going with Vanguard, which actually is a pretty good mana accumulator, very niche getting used compared to Empowers and such, but when you don't have access to them, it ends up becoming a very good option. It destroys a row and creates a bunch of yellow gems boosted by blue gems destroyed. So if you end up destroying, let's say, 2 blue gems, you'll end up getting 10 yellow creation, while also making the board slightly smaller. Overall, pretty nice, so you do have to hit about 2 or more blues for it to be particularly good. But even if you're not, you should be able to hit at least 1 and get at least a little bit of value from it. But if you can hit like 3+, you're almost guaranteed going to get a extra turn, while also feeding all the yellow you need for both Guard's Avatar and Sir Quentin Hadley, which would be great. Essence of Evil isn't required. You could run with the purple weapon that explodes a bunch, anything you really want to run there. It's mostly just for mana accumulation option. You could just run with anything you feel like running. This team is actually pretty similar, where you don't have to run Essence of Evil. I just happen to put it on both teams. But we're basically going with Lion Prince here. He has a Destroy a Row, so a little bit of board control, a little bit of mana accumulation, while hitting the first 2 enemies pretty hard, while also getting boost ratio from the yellows destroyed. And we're just using Lord of Ember in order to feed it a bunch of red mana in order to get them back up. And you're basically just spamming them over and over again while using your hero for mana accumulation, Lord of Ember for mana accumulation, and just having your double damage in the middle. It is advised to run a full AoE option if you have so under any of the troops. However, if you don't, the double Lion Prince should be perfectly fine to get the event completed. As far as the next things, this one is for the Crypt event that we have going on tomorrow. It is a red-purple restriction. So for this first one, just figure to build around Scourge of Honor. You could do, once again, pretty much any AoE option here. Any of the true damage ones, however you want to go about it. This one just happens to go down the Scourge of Honor route. And of course, we're doing a Thrall Leprechaun base. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe we're also doing one for this higher level one. And we're actually going down to Ubistet route. I don't feel like I run Ubistet that much for high level delves, but still, if anything, it's almost better now than ever due to higher damage constantly increasing over time. Of course, with Sword's Edge today, we technically got 2 additional armor, and while that isn't damage necessarily for Ubistet, you know, that's extra damage for things like Rowan, Guard's Avatar, stuff like that. That's a lot more damage for them as they boost ratio from it. And over time, of course, every single troop ends up getting more stats from eventual Kingdom upgrades when they run around. But the main premise of this is we're running Rope Dart to go and tear all their armor, and then Ubistet to go double kill. And you just do Rope Dart, Ubistet. You immediately cast Leprechaun, cast into Thrall, Rope Dart, Ubistet, boom, win. And that's pretty much the whole premise as far as that team is concerned. Relatively quick, not as quick as killing everything at once, but as long as you don't have any kind of revives, you just cycle it twice and you just end up winning. As far as Pure Faction is concerned, you're basically spamming Lady Mirana. You can even run 4 of them. The main reason why you run one Graveseer, even though you're creating purple, which is a gem you, of course, do not use in this context, the main reason you run it is the first and final battle also has a Graveseer with Empower. So the whole purpose of your Graveseer with Empower is to counter the enemy's Graveseer with Empower, so that you can either convert immediately if there is alignment, or if there's no alignment, well, then you just wait and, yeah, you just don't use them. But you mostly have them just so if the board is set up really good, for the enemy, and you have no way to really counter it. Well, you now do. You just simply cast your Graveseer. So if it's worth casting Graveseer turn 1, you do. And if it's not, then you just simply don't. And regardless, the enemy will get countered. Because if the board was good, you then counter them from having a good board. And if it's bad, then you just let them cast and it won't really matter. And you just basically keep getting Lady Mirana up. Try going for the insta-kill. Even on the battles where you don't have to deal with the Graveseer, you could still cast Graveseer if you want, as it does have boost ratio for the insta-kill chance based on how many purples are on the board. But otherwise, you just generally don't cast it, as, of course, your team does not end up using any purple. And trying to put the purple troop onto his team just isn't really worth it. Just keep rolling for Lady Mirana's insta-kills, and that's enough to win. You have a bunch of score reduction. You even get to steal attack to theoretically have even more score reduction, in the sense that you lower their attack value. So very bulky. The only thing that can really kill you are spells, so whenever any of them get high on mana, you just try insta-killing them and hope to not have to deal with them. Anyways, as far as the Knight Hero class is concerned, we're basically just going for, as far as the class events, we're just going for a Dawnbringer wipe. You can do this pretty much any way you want, but we have access to Water Link, and that's the only link I believe we have access to, so any blue weapon that hits all enemies will be perfectly fine. Just have Griffin Knight here to end up feeding a little bit of yellow into it, though you can just triple Lance Knight into a blue weapon that hits all enemies, whichever way you want to run it down. And for Orc Invasions this weekend, basically just spam Vorkarn. Actually, last time we had Orc Invasions, we did not actually have access to Trick Nala. This was a troop that came in a couple months ago. I don't remember exactly when, sometime last year. But it ends up having Hunter's Mark while also converting all green to skull. So now you have all green to skull and all yellow to skull, which will help you just destroy and absolutely decimate every single tower, as you will have 5 times damage against every single tower, assuming you have it fully traded, even has score reduction. And your whole premise is you just spam a bunch of skulls into them, kill out all the towers pretty much one shot, and if you need, you have double of the ability. And if one of these somehow die, well, you have a backup one to go hit them with a bunch of damage. And it should be a very, very easy invasion event. Probably one of the easier ones we've ever had due to having double and power skull convert. The only kingdom that has access to that, or the only typing, since it does have both the orcs in it. And I don't remember the typing the other one. I don't think it was Mystic, in which case I guess you could do double Mystic in that circumstance. But very rarely that you get to double up on it for something like an invasion event, making it super easy, having that many skulls to apply right at the beginning. But anyways, guys, that will wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. But yeah, we'll be covering quite a few things this week. I hope to cover the new Mythic that technically came out this week, that also comes out next week, you know, the Raven, as he has quite a few instances that can be used, and I kind of want to cover him a little bit earlier just because he is pretty relevant for this week's Guild War, and even if you don't have access to him, you're probably going to be seeing him pop up here and there, so good to know what you're going to be up against beforehand. So we'll try to get that out tomorrow if we can. Of course, every single night this week we'll be basically messing around with Guild Wars, with this main one tonight's being going over the Raven, and seeing exactly what he could do. Aside from that, yeah, Sword's Edge finally hitting 30 star. Unfortunately, can't really grind for that. Obviously, the only way you could really do so without spending money, which even if you want to spend money on it, it's very rare that you can actually just directly buy blue deeds. But basically, the only way to grind for is just throw gems at merchants. And we'll slowly start grinding for that and trying to get a little bit closer. I'm not really in a rush to get it to 30 star. But a double armor bonus, definitely a very huge bonus for things like Rowain, Guard's Avatar, you know, any armor boost ratio in the game. And even if you're not using them, you know, Total Armor, still a lot of durability to have. Anytime you can get just +2 stats out of nowhere is definitely kind of decent. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up for now. All the teams in the description if you want to use them. Feel free to leave a like on the videos. It helps all out and is greatly appreciated. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching.